Before we get into this video, I am not claiming to know what went on behind closed doors between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, apart from what we have already seen and heard ourselves with everything that has gone on with this trial so far. It's really important to remember that this video in particular is going over week 2. There are still 4 weeks left, so we are only going to be talking about what was shown or discussed from April 18th to April 21st. If you guys would like to hear my thoughts on some things that I thought were very notable about week 1, I will link the video down below. And also, I recently did one talking about a very big mistake that her legal team made that I'm not going to be discussing in this video because it's already going to be entirely too long, but they made a really big mistake in their opening statement. I'll also have that linked down below. First of all, I think it's really important to note that I am not biased. Yes, even though I have a lot of Johnny Depp movies that I like, I do not know him personally. I am not gonna sit here and see something that he did wrong and tell you guys he didn't do anything wrong. If I think he's wrong in something, I'm gonna tell you guys that, just like if I think Amber Heard is right in something, I'm gonna tell you guys that too. This is just my opinion based on what I watched from watching this trial that is long. If you guys have not been watching it yourselves, these lives are up to over 7 hours. There's a lot to listen to, and I am making notes the entire time. So this video is probably going to be really long because I have a lot of things to say. Week 2 was the hardest week to listen to so far, especially the last day, which I'll be discussing at the end of this video. It was very difficult to listen to. It was all over the place. It was messy. I think regardless of however you are looking at this, I think that we can all agree that this relationship was so toxic. It never should have happened. Things that went on between the two of them would not be healthy for anybody. It's such an unhealthy, messy, toxic relationship. For the first half of this video, we're going to be talking about when Johnny Depp was being questioned by his legal team. And then the second half of this video, we're going to go over when Amber Heard's legal team was talking to him, which that's when things get really crazy. I feel like the first half, when he was being questioned by his legal team, we got to hear Johnny speak. It sounds like if you ask him a question, he's going to give you all of the details to the question that you're asking. And he might forget where he started and end up somewhere else completely different, but he's gonna talk. And it reminds me how in week 1 that their marriage counselor said that Amber Heard would like rapid fire at him and not let him finish his sentences and not let him speak, but that if she would actually let him talk, that he could essentially talk your ear off.
At any point during the first session, did Miss Heard interrupt Mr. Depp when he was trying to talk?
Yes, she talked over him. She had rapid fire talking.
Did she interrupt him during your other sessions that are reflected in Plaintiff's Exhibit 2?
Yes, and I pointed out the process to her at some point, and she got it, that no one could actually have a decent dialogue with her if she was rapid firing and talking over and just barraging.
I really appreciated that his legal team let him talk because there was a lot of insightful things. We learned a lot about his past, a lot about his family. And if you guys don't know anything about Johnny Depp, he is very private. He doesn't really share too much. He never really has. So when Johnny Depp was initially talking about Amber Heard, he first described her as essentially being the perfect woman. He described it as being too good to be true, and he did leave his ex to be with Amber, and he had been with her for like 14 years, 2 kids together. And like, if she's being this great woman, this great perfect human being, you guys have a bunch of things in common like he described, you know, you're only seeing the good side, and on top of that, she's stunning. Like, I could see how somebody would get wrapped up in that. But then he said that she became another person. She became somebody that felt like his opponent. He described her as having a need for conflict and saying that she would just have violence that would erupt out of nowhere. And he referred to her as reminding him of his mom, which, if you guys know from week 1, we learned that his mom was a very mean woman. A lot of the things that he allegedly experienced with Amber, he was experiencing as a child with his mom. One of the stories that he told that I thought was interesting was he was describing basically one of the first red flags that he had noticed, which initially it sounds like a good thing. He was talking about how in the beginning about how, you know, she seemed like she was an acts of service type love language person. So she liked to do things for him. And one of the things that she would do for him every time he would come home from work or a long day is she would take off his boots for him.
For that year or year and a half, it was amazing. There were a couple of things that, I don't know, stuck in my head that I noticed that I thought might be a little bit of a dilemma. When I would come home from work, she would sit me down on the couch and give me a glass of wine and take my boots off, set them to the side, and I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. I just never thought that was, I just never experienced that before. And it became a regular thing that she did, this kind of routine. And I remember one night I came home from work and I think she was on the phone or something, or busy, she was doing something. So I sat down on the couch and I took my boots off, and suddenly Miss Hurd approached, this look on her face and she just said, "What did you just do? What did you do?" I said, "What do you mean?" "You took your boots off." I said, "Yeah, yes I did. You were busy, you know." No, that's my job. That's what I do. You don't do that, I do that." "Okay, all right then." But I did take pause, of course, at the fact that she was visibly shaken or upset that I had broken her rules of routine.
I think that's a really sweet thing if you want to do that for your partner if they come home from a long day. But if you're going to get mad at them when they do it one time because you're not there, that's a little weird. So she was described as being controlling, and he felt like he was wrong in everything that he did, that she would name call him and belittle him and berate him.
I was suddenly just wrong about everything. It commenced with sort of demeaning, name-calling, berated, sort of to be made a fool of, and those would escalate into a full-scale argument. What I had learned as a youth, which was to remove myself from the situation so that it couldn't continue, because there's only so much your ears can hear and never forget. When you're approached with such anger and hatred, it seemed like pure hatred for me.
His sister said she witnessed her calling him a fat old man, but then she would tell him that he was a bad father. But then also he said that she would get mad at him when he would spend time with his kids, because Amber's described as someone that always wanted him around, always wanted him there at her side. And so if he was doing something with his kids and she wasn't there, she would get upset about that. I don't think they used the word jealous, but that's what it sounded like to me, that she would get jealous of him spending time with other people. Her ex-assistant and the marriage counselor both alleged that Amber was extremely insecure. Whenever they would get into fights, if you've been following this, you know that there's been a lot of audio and, you know, a lot of proof and evidence that Amber did not want Johnny to ever leave. She wanted him to stay and she wanted him to fight. That's what she wanted. But that Johnny would always leave, which is what he did when he was a kid. When he went through what he did with his mom, he would run and hide or get away from the situation. With Amber, he was trying to do the same thing. Amber did not like that. She would use so many tactics to try and prevent him from leaving. One of the things was that he said that she would say that I'm gonna die if you leave, which I think is terrible, especially knowing his past and what he went through. To say that, you know that you're trying to manipulate him into staying based off of a childhood trauma that he has. There were situations where he was saying, you know, he would be going to another room and she would go bang on the door, and that she would just chase him through the whole house with every room he would try and go into.
I think that I ended up locking myself in about at least 9 bedrooms, bathrooms that day, as she was banging on the doors and screaming obscenities and wanting to have a physical altercation.
There was one incident where he described that he went to one of his other houses and she ended up showing up there in her pajamas screaming at him in the front lawn. And personally, it's a strange situation because she's alleging that she's a victim of DV with Johnny Depp. But I've never heard of a situation like this before in my life where the person who is the victim of it is the one that's chasing the alleged abuser. If he did all the things that she's claiming that he did, why would she chase him? Why did him and his sister testify? His sister would have to book an extra room when they would travel for Johnny so that when they would get into these fights that he had a place to go. Now, I didn't know this, but Johnny Depp was actually the first one to start recording the conversations, and he said that he asked for her consent and she agreed to allow him to record. And the reason why he was the first one to start doing it was he said that they would get into these fights where she would say or do horrible things, but the next day she wouldn't remember that she did it. So he asked her if he could record to show her the next day how she was acting so that she would remember that she had said and done these things that she was claiming she didn't do. He said that the first time that he was recording her, that it felt like she was performing for the tape, like she knew that it was on, so she was acting a little bit different. And he said that that was something that he noticed as being strange at the beginning. And then she eventually started recording her own videos. He, testified that there were numerous recordings that he did not consent to. I find it strange if the both of them were recording things, how Johnny has her admitting these things.
And I lied.
And that you punched me in the fucking thing, and
You figured it out.
and you said, "No, I didn't. What the are you talking about?" And I watched you lie, and then
I didn't punch you, by the way. I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
You know, you've been in a lot of fights. You've been around a long time. I know. Yeah.
No, when you have a close
You
face.
didn't get punched. You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this, but I did not punch you. I did not fucking deck you. I fucking was hitting you. I don't know what the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you. I did start a physical fight.
Yeah, you did, so I had
Because
to get out of there.
Yes, you did. So you did the right thing, the big thing. You know what? You are admirable.
But in her recordings, a lot of them without his consent, she doesn't have him doing that. First, I want to talk about the substance issues that Johnny has, because they're brought up throughout this week over and over and over again. During the first portion of the week, when his lawyers were talking to him about it, he was very open about how he had a substance abuse issue. He even talked about how Amber drove him to do it at some points. This is something that is very common. It does push people to do these things. It does push them towards, their drug of choice, because they're so emotionally defeated by how they're being treated. He got hooked on, I don't know if I can say this word, I'll write it there for you guys. He got hooked on these after having an injury. I've also been the witness to somebody who had a severe injury that caused them to get prescribed these types of things. They were addicted to them for years. It's not something that I think that somebody deserves to have used against them in court. It's a very serious addiction. He described how he was sober for 18 months, yet she drank the entire time. She would be able to down like 2 bottles of wine a night. There was one fight that they had gotten into where he had had a glass of champagne and she lost her mind over it. She was absolutely furious with him that he had drank. He ended up asking her, well, will you support me in my sobriety by not drinking? She refused.
To toast Christopher in his Lifetime Achievement Award, and so I'd had half a glass of champagne with Christopher Lee and his wife, and I saw nothing wrong in it, and I said I'd like to have a glass of champagne. As she was sitting there with a glass of wine, and we were in the restaurant, and she absolutely lost it and got up and stormed to the ladies' room. And I told my security and driver, I said, I think we have to go. I think we're gonna have to leave. So we left the restaurant and went home. And the mere suggestion of me sipping a glass of champagne or having 1 glass or 2 glasses of wine, she went apoplectic. It was, I was weak. I was a complete mess. I was an alcoholic. I was gonna ruin everything. Your kids are not proud of you. They can't stand what you're doing to yourself. So at that point, I said to her, okay, listen, how about this? You want to support me not drinking? I've never asked you this before. How about you stop drinking? How about you get sobriety and share this sobriety with me to support me and help me through this?
What did she say to that?
No. No. She said no.
Some people may disagree with me on this. If you're with somebody and they have a substance problem, I don't think it's right to do that thing in front of them. Now, Johnny Depp discussed how his severed finger had happened.
She walked up to me and reached and grabbed the bottle of vodka, and then just kind of stood back and then hurled it at me, and it just went right past my head and smashed behind me. I stood up and I walked behind the bar, and there was a larger bottle of vodka, the kind with the handle, on it. I grabbed that and I went and I sat in my seat again. I opened the bottle and I poured myself a shot and drank it. Miss Heard was flinging insults left, right, and center, and she then grabbed that bottle and threw that at me. She threw the large bottle and it made contact and shattered everywhere.
I think it's really important to note that he admitted to lying about what actually happened to his finger because he didn't want her to get in trouble. He didn't want people to find out that she had actually thrown a bottle at him that cut his finger off. That is something that a lot of victims do. They are trying to protect that other person, yet her legal team's trying to use that against him. Apart from when he originally had lied about it to protect her, his story stayed the same the entire time since then. It's never changed. He also talked about this fight that they had had where she was claiming that he had headbutted her.
Started just throwing wild punches at me, at the back of my head, at the side of my head, at anything that she could connect with. As I'm approaching the door, suddenly I'm just getting clobbered from behind, and one's natural primal instinct is to kind of duck and cover. So I ducked and covered, but they didn't stop. So I came up this like this, sort of protecting my face, but at the same time, with her arms swinging wildly, I put my arms out and I was able to get her into a bear hug or something, just to stop her from hitting me anymore.
She was like, you made my nose bleed, you broke my nose. She wouldn't let him look at it. She ended up running off and coming back with, toilet paper with blood on it and showing it to him. He later went and found that toilet paper that she had used, saying that her nose was bloody from him headbutting her, and there was red nail polish on it.
She was gone for about 7 or 8 minutes. And then when she came back, I was in the bedroom of penthouse 3. And she came back about 7 or 8 minutes later. She had a Kleenex or a tissue to her nose. And she pulled it away from her nose and she showed it to me. And there was red. There was indeed like red color on the tissue. But me, I know that there was no connection to her nose. No part of my body made connection to her nose or eyes or anything like that. So she said, she took it away and she showed it to me. She said, "Way to go, Johnny, you broke my nose. You broke my nose." I was waiting for her to dispense with that Kleenex because I didn't trust it. And so I waited, and when she dropped it into the wastebasket in her bathroom, or in our bathroom, and left the room. Went somewhere downstairs, I think, I don't know. And then I pulled the Kleenex out of the trash bin, and I inspected it pretty closely and realized that it was nail polish. It was nail varnish or polish.
If the nail polish on the toilet paper thing is true, that is really, really messed up. He also mentioned, this can of mineral spears that was thrown at him and hit him in the nose, and that there was 2 witnesses. And then of course the birthday incident where he was late to her birthday party, and when he had finally showed up, she was really, really upset. He described that when they went to bed that night that she started attacking him, and so he tried to get up and leave like he always does.
When she engaged in her normal kind of banter of trying to poke at me and get me to react, I literally just got into bed. I remember the television was on, and I was reading. She entered the bedroom while I was laying on my side of the bed, reading, and she was still rattling off all the wrongs I'd done to her in that particular day, and how unreliable I am, and what a horrible person I was. And I did not engage verbally, nothing. I sat there or laid there reading my book. And when she didn't get a jump out of me or a jolt out of me, she got out of bed, she walked around the bed, she came to my side, and again, you've got a person who is throwing multiple shots at your face, at your head, at your neck, at anything she could hit. So I got up out of bed, and I grabbed her by the shoulders, and I sat her down on the bed. And I said, I'm leaving. Please don't get off the bed. Please don't follow me. Please don't try and stop me. I'm leaving. And she got up off the bed, and she squared off at me in the doorway of our bedroom. And I said, what do you want to do? Hit me again? Would you like to hit me again? And I said, go ahead, hit me. Bam. And then I just said, is that what you wanted? Would you like another? Bam. There's the second one. And I said, good, now you're done. Grabbed her by the shoulders, walked her to the bed, sat her down, and said, don't follow me. Leave me alone. I'm out. I'm gone. I went, I grabbed a few things, and I got out.
After that incident, he got a picture from his housekeepers with poop in his bed. His housekeepers knew that was not the dog's poop because the dog was a little tiny dog, not a very big dog at all, and the poop looked like human poop. Amber allegedly pooped in his bed. A big old birthday Dookie Duke right in the sheets.
She was telling me about she brought up the situation of her fecal matter on the bed. And and she tried to blame it on the dogs. But
Why didn't you think it could have been the dogs?
The dogs weigh, they're teacup Yorkies. They weigh about 4 pounds each. The photograph that I saw, I mean, I lived with those dogs for many years. And so did Hilda Vargas. She's a woman who's been with me for 30 plus years, you know, from the very beginning. And she was the one who photographed it. It was clear she knew the dogs as well as I did. And that was none of that did not come from a dog. That just didn't.
Okay, so now we're gonna move on to when Amber's team was talking to Johnny, and this is when he was getting interrupted on numerous occasions. I cannot remember this lawyer's name. Everybody's calling him Rottenborn. I don't know what his actual name is, so we're just gonna call him Rottenborn. But this lawyer is so disrespectful and rude, and I know that's the lawyer character he is playing. I know that's his job. This is just how it is, but oh my God, is it ever frustrating. I mean, the amount of times he told Johnny that Johnny was wasting the court's time, but he literally didn't redact any of his paperwork, so there were all these pauses of him trying to redact it, or he would be digging through documents and things like that, and it's like, I guarantee you there was probably about an hour or more of that 7+ hour day just of them not having their stuff together.
It was a very ugly situation with Amber. So
Mr. Depp, with respect, trying to respect the court's time and the jury's time, that was not my question. My question was simply,
when
you would
take
agree,
5 minutes to look for a
you would agree,
document.
you would agree that on.
But yet, don't let Johnny say anything other than a yes or no answer because he's wasting everybody's time. Like, this dude was so rude. Now, I can't include these text messages, you guys, because they are so graphic and disturbing and not okay. They were not pleasant, to say the least. During his team's opening statement on day one, they did say, you are going to hear disturbing text messages that Johnny had sent. I mean, the things he said were awful. We can all agree they were awful. I don't condone speaking like this. I don't think it's okay to speak like this. So this is not me defending anything he said, because child, you need to go wash your mouth out with soap. A big bar of soap. But we need to remember what this trial is about, because all her legal team is trying to do is to distract. It was just 7 hours of just talking about his substance abuse issues and just airing out all of his personal stuff about that. Being an addict does not automatically make somebody an abuser, and it seems like, and maybe something's gonna come out eventually. Like I said, we got 4 more weeks of this trial. Something could come out. But what it seems like is they don't really have anything else on him but these videos and audios of him under the influence of something. My personal opinion, these audio recordings that they're playing that are trying to make Johnny look bad is just making me feel bad for him, that he had somebody recording him in this state of mind, not doing anything to hurt anybody else, if anything, hurting himself. Like, there was a video clip that was played of him moaning. And I'm like, what is the purpose of that? What is the purpose of playing this video of him moaning? He's not hurting anybody. Then they showed the picture of him passed out with ice cream. And Johnny Depp alleges that that was staged that way. He was like, I clearly was not eating ice cream. I had my hand in my pocket. So he was alleging that she handed him the ice cream knowing it was gonna spill all over him, and it did, and then she took a photo of it. But again, he's passed out, he's not hurting you. I don't understand the purpose of these audios and pictures. It's like 7 hours a day, but not seeing anything where he has committed DV against Amber. But we have audio of her admitting to doing it against him. So the last thing I wanna talk about before we wrap this up is the audio that was played at the very end. I have to be careful with what I say here, because if I talk too graphically about this, YouTube will demonetize my video. It was awful. It was something that I didn't enjoy hearing. I don't think anybody did, but it was audio that they played of Johnny Depp trying to SH himself. We're all adults here. I think you can figure that one out. The fact that Amber took it upon herself to collect her phone or whatever it is she was recording him on, but then to try and act like you care about him in that moment, to then take that audio that she recorded of him in a really bad state of mind, to take that recording and to submit it as some sort of evidence in this case. My personal opinion on that is that's really low. We're here because Amber Heard alleged that she was a victim of DV against Johnny Depp. What does playing this recording have to do with that? Imagine being in the lowest point in your life and having your partner record it and then submit it as evidence in court that you committed DV against them. The thing that makes it even worse is that they chose to play this at the end of day 7. It ended with this recording where Johnny Depp started crying on the stand and grabbed a tissue. It was really hard to watch, like him sitting there like that. And if it was reversed, it was anybody else up there, it would have been the same thing. That was rough to listen to. That was rough to see. But then to have them cut it off there and be like, nope, that's it. That's all we have for today. And he's still trying to emotionally process listening to that back. He knew all of this was going to be out there in the public. He wanted it to be live. He wanted everybody to see everything for themselves. It doesn't make it any less sad. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time where at the end of the trial, like, he left really quickly, like as soon as he could. He was one of the first people out the door. You know, if it comes out where there's proof and evidence that he did something to her, I'll comment on that too. I'm just talking about what is out there, the facts that are out there, and that is where my opinion is coming from. And right now, she looks awful. When you see somebody who has gotten up and spoken up against DV, and has been a voice and an advocate for people who experience that, like Amber Heard has been, but then you see that they are also committing that themselves. She tried to portray herself as one way when behind closed doors, she was doing the exact thing that she was speaking up against. You don't feel like you can stand tall next to that person that's hurting you. You don't feel like you can get in their face and scream at them. You don't feel like you can hit them back. You don't want to chase them when they leave. You don't freely get to attack them without there being any sort of retaliation. That's why a lot of people are mad about this, because she played a card that said, I'm a victim. But then we're seeing that the person that she's accusing is a victim. It's hard not to be upset about that. To conclude my thoughts on week 2, this trial is messy. Week 3 has just begun as I'm posting this video. As I said at the beginning of this, there's no telling what else is going to come out. So I hope you kept in mind as you watched this whole video that this is just with me commenting on what has been out on week 2. So we will have to see what else comes out. This is just my opinion so far. I will definitely give you guys my opinion on week 3. When it has concluded, I will be watching, I will be taking my notes. And as I said, I won't be biased. If there's something that I think that Johnny Depp did wrong, I will definitely say that. All the other videos that I've done about this trial and about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard will be linked down below if you guys would like to go watch them. I'll be seeing you guys soon for another video.